Alright, so while schoolwork goes on upstairs, I'm kind of doing schoolwork down here. It feels that way sometimes when I'm writing all over the board. So I haven't talked much about the draft. Uh, by much, I mean at all. So let's take just a quick look, just an overview at who is the most likely Alexis Lafreniere. He is most likely to be the number one draft pick this year. And he's a winger, which makes it all the more important that we see how this turns out. Very often with drafts, when we look back and we go, hey, it was really surprising that guy got taken where he did, they're centers. Whether it's Dubois a few years ago by Columbus or it's Hayden by Arizona, we will see centers get drafted earlier, which is why Lafreniere is very, very likely the most talented one in this draft class, but you just never know. He's played 13 games so far this year for Rimouski, 10 goals, 24 assists, 34 points, which is 2.62 points per game. Pretty good. By which I mean amazing. October 20th, so 2 nights ago, against the Quebec Ramparts, 1 goal, 4 assists. October 16th, against Baie-Comeau, 1 goal, 3 assists. And against Cape Breton on the 2nd, he got a goal and 3 assists as well. And there were other games in there where he had 2 goals and 2 assists. That Cape Breton game, he had 10 shots. He's had games where he's had 7 shots, 8 shots. He is a man playing among children, and yet he's 6'1", 192 pounds, 186 centimeters, or 87 kilos for our friends in Europe. And one of the key things with him is he is a supremely talented player, but he's also considered to be very physical. And his penalty minutes are pretty high for a prospect that's this high up as well. So he kind of does a little bit of everything. And that's something that is important in today's NHL far more than it used to be. It used to be you just skill. Just get out there, you're just skill. That's great. You're the number one. All right, you're the best guy. You're just a skill guy. Don't worry about defense. Don't worry about penalty killing. Don't worry about any of that stuff. Body checking. No, you don't do that. You're just pure skill. Lafreniere is not that guy. But he's still putting up almost 3 points per game, and so his run is going to be very interesting to watch. He's number one on both Hockey Prospect and Future Considerations lists. Those are the only lists that have been updated. I, of course, go through Elite Prospects to get all this information, so if you go to eliteprospects.com, all that wonderful stuff, you can get all this info. There's a promo code as well that can be used, but that's on the 1st of the month through to the 7th, so it won't work right now. So that being said, let's go ahead and plow forward. The most likely to end up being number one that's not Lafreniere right now, there's people in Europe going, are you serious? Quinton Byfield, and I'll get to this because there are others. There are others in this draft class who could move up, and we could see some real challenges by the end of it. But for fans in North America, Quinton Byfield of the Sudbury Wolves is the most interesting one. He's played 13 games as well. He has 11 goals, 16 assists, 27 points. So fewer points than Lafreniere, but 1 more goal. He's putting up 2.08 points per game, and he's a center. That's where it gets interesting. He does play center. And October 18th against Barrie, he had 2 goals and 2 assists. October 4th against Peterborough, he had a goal and 3 assists. He had 4 shots in that game. He gets 4 shots, 5 shots in games. He is not putting up shots at the rate that Lafreniere is, but look, he has 1 more goal. And he's 6'4", 214 pounds, or 194 centimeters and 97 kilos. That's pretty much NHL ready in size. So when you're looking at the two, if you want a big center, and you're saying we need a big superstar center, Byfield matches that. You want your skilled player, you're likely the best player in the draft, Lafreniere is that guy. So Lafreniere, who was the CHL Player of the Year last season, highly likely he's still the guy. But Byfield is challenging. He is number 3 on HockeyProspect.com's list, number 2 on Future Considerations list. Now, Lucas Raymond from Sweden. Playing for Frölunda, he can play right wing or left wing. He's only played 12 games. He's got 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points. You can look at that and go, well, look, he's not putting up the totals. Playing against men. So, he is playing against men, which is an option that seems to interests some teams. You get a guy from Europe, he's highly likely to be more ready for the NHL game. Now, at 5'10", 179 centimeters, 165 pounds or 75 kilos, the much smaller of the three options on the board. But what they say about him is he has great speed, battles hard, two-way forward, and he's a penalty killer. So he does a little bit of everything, not unsimilar, or dissimilar, I should say, to Lafreniere. Now, Byfield, that's your big center. The guy who's going to be able to, at the NHL level, likely have his way with the league just by size alone, because he's 6'4" and he's 17 years of age. He's not done growing. So Byfield is likely going to end up being, I would not be surprised if 6'5" or 6'6" ends up being his level, and that would just be crazy as your top center 6'6". That would just be crazy. But Raymond, number 2 on hockeyprospect.com and number 3 on future considerations. There are others, guys like Stutzel. There are others in this draft class who could work their way in. Right now, how it looks, it would be a shock if Lafreniere isn't the number 1 pick. But there's enough talk and enough buzz around Byfield that it could make things a little uncertain. I'm wearing a Kings hat for a very simple reason. The Kings could potentially be drafting first overall. As a Kings fan, would you rather have a winger who can do a little bit of everything and plays that physical game, is probably the best player, or a big physical center right down the middle of the ice? Because regardless of how much he does or doesn't body check, at 6'4", yeah, it's going to be some physicality with that. And I didn't get into those numbers because, again, we're just at the beginning. And this is just the start of the season, and this is where it's kind of fun because the draft classes always end up moving around tremendously. You look at Moritz Seider, who was drafted relatively early by the Detroit Red Wings, and everybody lost their mind over that. Seider was one of those guys who was rocketing up the draft class as the year went along. He continually seemed to be jumping. And as the year goes along, I'm going to look for guys who have made big moves during the year. And we're going to see who this year's Seider is going to be, or who is going to end up being the guy that unseats Lafreniere. We've seen end-to-end, whether it's Austin Matthews, whether it's Dahlin, we've seen, from start of the season till the end, this is your number 1 guy, it's his draft, and everybody else is just trying to get close. This year doesn't quite feel that way, even though Lafreniere is somebody who has been talked about, and there's been a lot of buzz about him for quite a while. So, I'd be surprised if he's not still number 1 at the end of the year, but I thought this was a good time. Today was a good time to take a look. We're far enough into the junior season to look at that. And is Byfield going to end up being the guy? Or is there a European player outside of Raymond who may end up pushing for that number 1 spot? Because anytime that you talk about Lafreniere, you're going to get people from Europe who go, hey, we've got this Finnish kid. Hey, we've got this Swedish kid. It's going to be a good draft. I think 2020 is going to be a really good draft. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And that's my question for you guys. Will Alexi be the number 1 draft pick next June? Or are we going to see somebody else steal that from him? And will that promise of a really big first-line center with Byfield, is that going to be just too much for GMs to overlook? Because, again, when you look at draft classes, those big centers, they don't stick around for very long. Because teams know if you're going to win a Stanley Cup, you need to have strength down the middle. But let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.